Hello and welcome to Perspectives. So the budget is out. Is it good? Is it bad? That is the question. The governments always say it's a people-friendly budget. But is this a people-friendly budget? From Mia Mohammad Nawaz Sharif's first government, I remember very well. I personally liked the measures he took. I personally liked how he was directly or indirectly taxing people. We have to admit and understand we are a very liquid economy. And I'm not saying that in a positive way. I'm saying that sarcastically. We're an economy which cannot be tamed. We are a very large economy, a very profitable economy, but it's almost impossible to tame it. And the first time PMLN was in power, they made a lot of good effort to tame it. This time again, I see some measures which look like it's an effort to tame this economy. But when you try to tame an untamed economy, there's always hue and cry. People don't like it. People don't like to be tamed. If you try to impose a tax on withdrawal of cash past a certain amount, nobody likes it in an economy where you can move as much cash as you like. So, yes, complaints, arguments will be there. But we have to analyze and see if there is a long-term impact, medium-term impact. And also, are we being put into the right direction, even if the beginning of this journey looks or seems or feels painful. My guests on my right, Muhammad Hanif Ajayi Saab, who is with GEPS Pharma and also Director of SARC, who's an economic analyst. Thank you very much for being here. On my left in honor, Dr. Shahida Wazarat, who is with Institute of Business Management and is the head of the Department of Economics. Dr. Shahida, thank you very much for taking time out. And Mr. Mir Muhammad Ali Khan, he's an investment banker. Thank you very much for being here, taking the time out. And joining us in Islamabad is Mr. Zishan Merchant, an income tax advisor, consultant, lawyer. Zishan sir, thank you very much. And in a few minutes, hopefully, Mr. Shabar Zaidi, who was with us last night, will also be joining us. And the reason I've called him again is because he had a lot of expectations. I'd like to hear from him if his expectations have been met or not. Hanif, I'd like to start with you. How do you see it? You're a businessman. You understand the volatility of the economy. So do you think it's going to tame you or not?
I think if you just see the taxation measures, as Zishan will bear us out, taken are a bit harsh on some things, but see on the positive side. First of all, you understand the tax collection target they have put in is more or less similar to the target we fixed last year. I mean 2.45 trillion, and last year we were about 2.318 trillion. So for me, it's a walking game. But how they are going to achieve it is a big difference, because this year we are approximately ending at 1.9 trillion, so there is a shortage of about 400 billion. How they are going to achieve next year, when nothing is mentioned that any taxation recovery, hostile measures will be taken or not. Just feel 180 million population in the country, only 1% of the people pay the tax. And the people who pay more than 10,000 tax, they are less than 500,000. And what we were expecting that this government will come up with a documentation. But nothing has been made, just bit discussed. But can you believe it or not, our retailers and grocery sector contribute 16% to our GDP, and their contribution in the national exchequer is only 1.5 billion in form of a tax. What measures they are going to take it? See, the biggest worrisome now, you ask me about the businessman. On the one hand, they allow 10 years taxation holiday to the industrial sectors on the export zones. On the other hand, they have reduced initial depreciation content from 50% to 25%. This 1% increase in GST, you ask any industrial sector who have a major import, and since I am in the pharmaceutical industry, the prices of their products are frozen since 2002, and where we pay the sale tax and we are not allowed to pass it on to the consumer. With this 1% increase, and most of our raw material imports, are imported to, it will carry a 20% impact on the cost. Same with electricity. And you can just see how a person can expect when he want to go for a higher education with the standard education institution, have to pay on the fees more than 200,000, 5% withholding tax. On the other hand, you have decreased 1% duty and sale tax on stationery and other things. So this budget is contradicting to each another. And in my personal opinion, with 6.33% fiscal deficit they have already provided, and in comparison they say 7%. This is on cash accounting. If you do it on accrual accounting, this will work out to 9.2. So I think maintaining 6.33 will be a difficult one. And other things, whatever the targets they have provided, they have not given any measures that how they are going to recover it. Will big uphill
But
task.
if they had given the measures, people would be screaming, "Oh my God, how can you do this? How can you?" Now, all the fears Hanifa has mentioned are typically the fears we talk about after every budget. Oh, this is going to increase taxation to that much, and this is going to increase the cost of living for the poor for that much. And if you increase 1% sales tax, this is going to happen. If you increase diesel by a rupee, and the cost of potatoes is going to go. But frankly, to be honest, the nation has never complained about the cost of living becoming unbearable. They've complained about energy. You'll see riots for electricity. You'll see riots for gas. You'll see problems with water. But the cost of living, somehow people adjust. Now my question to you, are all those fears, as Hanifa has raised, are just skepticism? Or does it really, really go and hurt people at 20-30%? Because I can't imagine if a poor man gets hit by 20-30%, how does he survive? How does he continue to exist? There would be absolute chaos.
Yeah, I think some of the fears are, I think, genuine because, for example, the cost of milk going up and the cost of education going up. I can understand the government's rationale that they're trying to tax those, children whose parents are paying, quite expensive, sending their children to expensive schools. But I mean, if you look at the universities today, private sector universities, I mean, this is sort of the average fee of so I mean, that means that higher education is going to be penalized. And then the government is proposing to impose a tax on milk. Now, milk is such an item of such great necessity that I think the government should be taxing more sort of luxuries rather than, the basic necessities like education and milk and, But I think my own feeling about the taxation measures are that I think they are quite deficient in the sense that some of the more, the wealthy sectors or people where there is wealth, those sectors have not been brought into the tax net. For example, we've been talking about agricultural income tax. Now, I think the federal government is trying to nudge the provincial governments to impose agricultural income tax because there is
he repeatedly mentioned.
Yeah, he repeatedly. So I think what the government is trying to do, they're trying to nudge the provincial governments to impose agricultural income tax. Similarly, as the finance minister pointed out, that this property tax, etc., this is again a provincial subject. So again, I hope that the provincial governments will pick this up and there will be some taxation on this account. Similarly, I have been proposing for a long time that there should be taxation of capital gains. I mean, these are the sectors where there is wealth. So I think the idea of the government should be to tax this wealth because if you look at the government's development program, I'm very happy with the government's development program. I have to be very honest because for the last 20-30 years, there has been no development in Pakistan.
Okay, let me come back to development in just a moment. So, sir, do you feel that the skepticism or the fear is exaggerated, or are we about to really see a surge, a massive surge in cost of living? And as far as penalizing education or milk, here I'm sitting thinking, God, are they making it difficult or more expensive to raise children?
I don't think they're penalizing education. See, it's a politically incorrect thought. They're not taxing an average person going to school. If you're talking about education being taxed over 200,000 rupees a year or 200,000 rupees after 6 months, it's not a bad thing to tax the rich. The problem is fiscal prudence. We keep talking about bridging the gap, the trade deficit, everything, but what we don't do is documenting the entire economy and bringing more people into the tax net.
Yeah.
We have wonderful suggestions about what to tax, what not to tax, but we don't take concrete steps towards who to tax. First of all, our incomes are not fully declared here. As you mentioned, hundreds of thousands of crores could be taken out and put back into the bank. If you have a great relationship with your banker, he won't even report it.
Absolutely.
So just keep thinking about increasing our revenues from just one source. Foreign investment needs to be promoted as well. We never talk about promoting Pakistan's image overseas where real investments can come in. We keep every budget is a festival for a week. Everybody talks about it. 2 weeks later after that, we forget, we go about. Next year the budget comes again, there's a euphoria again. And back to
that's the point. So when we raise our fears for the poor, and with the humble apologies, we the rich raise our fears about the poor, but then the poor are left to deal with it themselves.
Absolutely.
We get on with our lives. The season's over.
Absolutely.
Like Basant, and we get on with the thing. And the poor, do they actually suffer so terribly as we gallantly talk about them?
Absolutely, they suffer. Cost of living is increasing,
So Anibai's fears are valid.
They are, to a major extent. You see, you can't look at the whole thing in just one perspective. You have to look at it, in a divided perspective. If we're talking about basic items being taxed, like milk, what she's talking about, that I think is terrible,
Okay. Zishan, during the last government, and I talked to you repeatedly, you had a lot of reservations about the way the taxation department was dealing with people who pay income tax. Do you think this budget is going to help facilitate taxpayers, or will it make their life more difficult? Do you see any improvement in the whole system or not?
I think this is going to make their life miserable. And that's the statement I want to make. First of all, I want to just highlight what Finance Minister said, that his opening statement was that they are going to tax the rich, and poor will be given relief. And then he reverted his statement by saying that sales tax is being increased from 16% to 17%. This has a major direct impact, and it will hurt the already suffering poor and the persons who are living below the our poverty line. And their increase would not be just 1%, because the increase in rate would not be just 1%. It has a multiplier effect, because the raw material cost, the 1% is increase on the raw material cost. Then the finished semi-product finish has also that same impact, and it will be a 4 to 5% increase at least. So I don't think that it is going to make their life easy. Their life is going to be worse than before. And as far as the taxation system is concerned, nothing in this budget has been given to curtail the corruption. Nothing in this budget has been given to tax the untaxed sector. Nothing in this budget has been given to tax the black economy. Nothing in this budget has been given to document the economy. And I'm sorry to say this, that nothing in this budget has been given to check that the people who are not paying their electricity, gas bills, or nothing in this budget has been given to stop the smuggling which is being done from our ports or other borders. So in all, I feel that this is going to create more inflation. I don't see how this target would be achieved, because the last year target was more or less the same. However, we are short by at least 400 billion. So it's going to be a very difficult position for the government to collect the taxes, because nothing has been done to collect the taxes. Rather than, corruption would increase.
Okay, if I may add here, Shabir Saab, thank you very much for joining us. You were very hopeful last night. I have two questions. One, how do you feel today? And secondly, everyone is complaining, and even television I was seeing, and Anibai was also mentioning that they set these beautiful targets, but how are they achieving these targets? One, and Zishan just mentioned there's no mention of how they will check the smuggling, but that's not really the budget's topics, are they?
Yes, let me clear that. This is not the budget topics, and let me put it very clearly. The targets have not been created by very high figures. This is the first thing. 2,400 is not a high target for the revenue collection. As I said yesterday night also, it should have been 3,400. It should have been 3,400. Target has been kept at the right level, a realistic level. But the question is, the way to achieve the target need to be re-examined.
Okay.
And as rightly being said by the person, the main money which is going to come from the increase in the sales tax rate.
Right.
That is, in my view, that needs to be reviewed.
And when we talk about documentation of the economy,
but
is it possible?
Let me. One of the steps which need to be highlighted is very important step. We all know that there is a lot of undocumented economy.
Absolutely.
We all know about it, and we all know that unlike a perception, all this money is lying in banks, and all the transactions are going through the banks. There is a disconnect between the banking transaction and the FBR transaction.
Right.
Now, action has been taken, which will be a very, very important and candid issue to be discussed in future. That they have made a provision in the law of income tax, where the tax officer will have access on bank accounts. It has got a very important implication, positive as well as negative.
A lot of negative.
No, I don't think it's negative. From a tax point of view, if I am the tax collector and if I am the taxpayer, and I think Zishan is saying, this is a very important subject. Whether the banking transaction need to be and can be examined by the tax officer, and can the access be given to them or not? Let me be clear.
Should it be given to them?
In USA it is.
Over here, should it be?
It was not there.
Should it be given?
In my view, personally, it should be given.
Which means you don't have any fraud bank accounts.
No, I don't have. That's what I'm saying. Look at the number of bank account holders in Pakistan, and look at the number of the taxpayers in Pakistan. There are more than 20.
That's a good point.
There are more than 20 million bank accounts in Pakistan.
So, how do you think?
Yeah, I think obviously, I mean, I agree that I mean, it will help to
straighten things out.
And to get some of the wealth that's been undocumented. But obviously, it will be prying into people's personal lives. So there is a trade-off between, there is this freedom that you have.
If NSA can look at the number of times you breathe in a day, I think this is perfectly all right.
Yeah. There's political will that needs to be there. We can talk about what Shabar Bhai said.
I don't see the political will is there.
I don't see the political will. I see a beautiful way of putting things together, suggestions. Political will has to be
hard and strong.
Hard and very strong.
So as Shabar just pointed out, one hard and strong. We're saying, well, that's unfair.
I absolutely agree with Shabar Bhai.
It should be implemented.
The number of bank accounts that we have.
That's just one example. Yeah.
Just one example. I mean, you can look at Blackberries being carried, cars being driven, houses being lived in.
With people who have not a penny to them.
You look at the taxes, they're paying what? 50,000 rupees, 100,000 rupees in taxes. There's an absolute disparity. And we all know that.
Anyway.
One thing I asked, both the tax experts are sitting over here. 5 months back, FBR has carried out a detailed survey, and there was a news every day that they have served about 1 million potential taxpayers who are the evaders. What has happened to that list, Shabar? They have come out. And the other thing that they were just mentioning, that they are going to take a harsh measure basis on the club membership, basis on the cell phone bills, and basis on the foreign traveling. What has happened to all these measures? Because whosoever make this budget this time, the same FBR people who have made it, there is no mention of about that thing. And other questions that I would like to put to both these gentlemen. What about the tax amnesty scheme, which could not be passed in the last assembly meeting? What they are going to do it? Because I think in any way, these people were coming in the tax net. Now they are again going to enjoy. Nothing is mentioned.
Can I answer this question?
I would, but I would like to personally add, I have a problem with these amnesties because we do a lot of these amnesties every few years. You have a cycle of fraud for a few years and then amnestize.
Can I answer this, please? There was an amnesty scheme which was going to come by the last UPV government, and that has not been passed by the government, and I think there's no mention of that in the, so that's not going to come. But there is a perpetual amnesty scheme in our ordinance. I say perpetual. And first of all, you should not pay tax in Pakistan. There is a way, if you come to me and I could give you advice how to avoid tax.
You cannot solicit business on life.
So the question is,
we make this deal after the show.
The question is that there is a perpetual system which is called 1113. If you bring any money from abroad, no question can be asked for the source of money. And you know
so
how
you take it to the market, you take it out and pay right back.
That perpetual amnesty scheme is such a big taboo that no government has ever dared to touch it. This government has done the same thing. And we, all the tax advisors who are in the tax business, we know that unless and until you have 1113, 111 brigade is very important, 113 is very important. 113 means that you can bring any money in Pakistan and you will not be asked the source of money. You know, and I know, how easy to send money out.
I don't.
No, everybody knows. There's no problem with it. You have a system of honest man. So the question is that if you have this perpetual amnesty scheme, then that answers the question of Mr. Ajari, that what happened to those private people when they were being questioned? They said, I brought it from abroad. Simple as that.
At least, sorry,
simple as that.
At least money coming in foreign exchange, I would even accept that.
Thank you.
No, send it out and bring $500 billion back. There's $97 billion sitting of supposedly Pakistani people in Swiss accounts. At least bring half of that back.
No, but the question is, you have to ask the source of money. The question is we are trying to match.
Shab, I need to interrupt. I'm going to take a short break. I will let Zishan take the very same questions that was posed to Mr. Hanibai. But after that, I'd like to shift towards, like Dr. Saab said, the development proposals made here. Taxation, raising money is one thing, but generating more money, generating employment is also a very crucial aspect of this budget. Let's talk about that. But first, let's take a short break. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Perspectives. We're talking about the budget. Zishan, same questions to you which Hanibai had asked about the taxation and the ways of evading it, and are they going to be any better this time?
First of all, I don't think that it's going to be better this time, because unless you don't change the will of the people who are collecting the taxes, nothing would be better, because these are the same people who are used to corruption. These are the same people who would rather take money for themselves rather to take it for the nation or for the government. So unless you don't change their mindset, unless you don't change the way of their thinking, I don't think much would happen. Coming back to the question that was raised, that there are potential 1 million taxpayers, there was a list prepared by the FPR. There still is a list of more than 3.2 million taxpayers who are potential taxpayers. But nothing concrete has been done so far to bring them into the tax act. One way was to bring the amnesty and force these people to come into the tax act. However, the amnesty scheme was not passed for unknown reasons. However, the amnesty schemes are usually seen as a very negative for the economy, because the people who are regularly paying taxes feel that they feel dejected because they have been paying taxes regularly. However, a person who is not paying taxes for more than a decade comes within this umbrella of this amnesty scheme, pays a very small amount of tax vis-a-vis the person who is paying a regular tax at a higher bracket. So the political will and then the will in the FPR machinery has to be there to detect. The detection has already been made to bring all these culprits into the tax.
Okay. So, Saba, what about development?
Sure.
What are we looking at?
Actually, I'm very happy with the proposals on account of the development program in the budget. For example, I think, if you look at Pakistan for the last 25, 30 years, there has been no development, particularly in the 1990s onwards. there has been virtually no development. And that is why we are experiencing such, shortfalls of water and electricity. Without going into the details why there was no development, obviously these are the IMF programs and IMF. So I'm very happy with the water development project that the government has proposed for 59 billion rupees. Then energy for 225 billion rupees. Obviously, the government, eventually we need to spend much more than this. But at least this is a good beginning. And then the highway network of highways, and then linking Gwadar to the northern areas, M4 and M9, and then linking Kashgar to Gwadar to the railway line. I think these are very important and very important infrastructural development schemes. And then developing the railways and then the highways. So I think these are very positive and very important development projects, and they are going to bring a lot of change to the country. My only concern is that, these are quite revolutionary proposals. But I don't know where the money is going to come from, because the government's taxation proposals are not that revolutionary. So I'm not sure where the money is going to come from. The other concern that I have is with regard to government, the finance minister, where he states that he's going to borrow some loans at low interest rates. Now, he hasn't specified, but my concern is I would like him to reconsider. If he's planning to go to the IMF, then I would like to encourage him to reconsider this decision, because he will not be able to undertake the massive development programs that he has in mind if he goes to the IMF, because IMF is going to bring about austerity. Wherever there is IMF, there is austerity and reduction in fiscal deficits. So I would like to encourage the government, and I would like to advise.
Does not mean no development. Austerity just means
behave. No, for the 1990s, throughout in Pakistan, whenever we went to the IMF, and whenever they suggested reducing the fiscal deficits, they were always achieved through reducing annual development plans.
But that's our fault. It's not the IMF. They don't tell you not to build a road. They just say behave. We don't build a road. That's our mistake.
No, but this is how it translates itself, because you cannot.
That's our mistake. But if this government has a different will, the money could come from IMF.
How we manage fiscal deficit. Yeah, that's the main thing.
That is the main thing.
It does not have to affect development. In America, there's fiscal deficit for the past since 1970, except 4 years. Between 1998 and 2001, how we manage these things.
Do you think the changes that Saba is talking about in the development sector? Do you think investment will find confidence once again in Pakistan, and these mega projects which this government is talking about? And we have to admit, in the past government they have fulfilled these mega projects. Even in Punjab, Shehbaz Sharif has, as controversial as they may be, they are mega projects. Do you think money will come back to Pakistan? Because we all know there's huge profits in Pakistan.
Do I hope money will come back to Pakistan? Absolutely. Do I think money is going to start flowing back into Pakistan immediately? I don't think so.
I did not use the word immediately.
I'm just saying. But in short, slowly short term, okay? If we go to the IMF for development funds, all right, or to borrowing money from them, what we have to see is what interest rate we are paying. We got to negotiate the interest rate.
Well, the obvious and the hidden interest.
Yes. Yeah. Plus we have so much in assets in capital markets of the government of Pakistan that these can start to privatize and raise funds from there as well. That will give ownership partly to foreign investors. That would attract more investment.
Can I just clarify?
In our corporations and...
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Many corporations.
I just wanted to clarify that I'm not against project-based lending. Now, if there is a project the government identifies and they get loans for it, I'm not against that.
And good.
Yeah, but I'm against borrowing to meet the budgetary deficit. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That has a lot of because that is policy-based lending.
If you take the money and you sink it in, there is no point.
If you take it to support the government and the lifestyles of the government, then obviously I'm opposed to it.
Why are we seeing investment coming into Pakistan now?
This year, concluded year, $800 million have come in against the target of $1.8 billion. One question I have. Last year, our stock exchange have rose 49%, nowhere in the world. This year, in last calendar year, 4 months, they have rose 24%. And there is a world record that in the month of May, the market has raised by 15%. That's also include the impact of Lever Brothers divestment in public taking over. We have given them a promise in the month of last government, in the month of Jan 2012, that we are not going to ask you a question about the source of money that is put in over there. So they are also going to enjoy, at the cost of the poor people, one more year and enjoyment over there, correct? That thing is not addressed at all in the budget. Other important thing that is, I think, answer to our country.
With humble point of comment, Jeff. If any incoming government undoes the previous government's promises and measures, we will be the first ones screaming foul. And we blame and rape politicians on TV. But how dare you undo?
No, but now, as the brother have given us, that now Zishan has said that this is not the government will only to collect the money. Now other people have to come in also. In the stock exchange, you just tell me how much tax they pay. The other cancer to our government, which is not being addressed over there, Afghan trade. This is killing this government, this industry in Pakistan. This issue is not being talked about. Even though on a private channel, every time, every month, people talk about.
Shepard, you agree? Yes. Let me say one thing about the stock exchange. I am the director of stock exchange. So please,
you're the man behind the stock exchange. Today you're really coming out and admitting to all your ill deeds.
The movement in the stock exchange does not reflect the Pakistan economy in that sense. It reflects only an anticipation. That means the second thing is that one of the issues is raised by, very rightly so, that the Afghan transit trade, the under-invoicing with China. These are the issues which are killing the Pakistan import bill. As we were discussing yesterday, one of the basic issue of Pakistan, I was discussing yesterday with you, that the first objective of ours should be to stabilize rupee against dollar. When rupee will stabilize against dollar, I can assure you Pakistanis will invest not for any reason that we are very patriotic, because it's a very good country, the returns are high. Let's be very clear. If you look at the return on deposit, Pakistan has got the highest return on deposits. And if we include the country risk also, even then it is profitable. But the second issue is that we have kept our interest rate at a very high level. The government in the last 5 years has done a remarkable job at reducing it. We have to reduce it further.
Absolutely.
One of the mistake, I would call it mistake, the government believes that by increasing the sales tax rate, the collection will increase. I can prove you arithmetically that if you bring it down the rate to 10, the collection will increase. Because it works in an input-output basis.
Sure.
So the second question which I was raising, that the change which I am seeing in Pakistan, that in the old days, in 10 years ago or a decade ago, when we used to have budgets, there used to be more of politicization rather than concrete discussions.
Sure.
Now, at least I have seen the Pakistani nation is more knowledgeable about their economics. And if that knowledge is,
they're not just knowledgeable, they kind of
no. And if this knowledge is, I'm telling you, it is disseminated.
Sure.
It is knowledge disseminated, and this is our role to disseminate the knowledge. And I am sure that now those years are not as close as they were in the past.
Yeah, can I just add, answering your question whether investments will come to Pakistan, I think a lot will depend on government's national security policy. For example, the PML government, the PTI government, the Jamaat-e-Islami, the JUIF, they are all convinced that we should talk with the Taliban and bring an end to this mad war. Now, if the government is able to prevail and if the government is able to get out of the war, then I think there's a very bright future for us, and I think a lot of investments will come.
I don't know if we can get out of a war, but we can probably bring up some sort of a...
Let me make a comment about the stock market. I think it's a misconception that a general public is benefiting from the entire capital market. 200,000 investors, out of that, really 39,000 investors, $58 billion market capitalization, 600 companies. How is it benefiting common man? It's a cartel of 39,000 people benefiting. Our investment ratio in general public is so little that in a population of 200 million people, had we had 20 million investors directly and indirectly through mutual funds and so on and so forth, had the market gone up then it would have wonderfully
spread the wealth equally to some extent. But I think then a school fee should not be charged. This amount, whatever they are collecting, should have been collected from this 39,000 people.
But also what's wrong?
School fees, I'm in favor of that school fee taxation.
Thank you, me too. What's wrong with it?
No, the question is, it's not a school fee. The common man's son, children are not being educated. The government school are there. These school fees are for the people who are earning money and not paying tax.
Zishan, how we are collecting taxes?
It's as simple as that.
How are we bringing investment to Pakistan? Do you see money flowing in, not tomorrow, but in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months?
Unless and until you don't improve on your agenda at this point of time, it will not flow in, because you need to take concrete steps. You have energy crisis at this point of time. You have law and order situation in your country at present. I don't know how this development will be carried out when there is no electricity for the industries. How this development will work out, and if this development would not work, then I don't see foreign investment coming into Pakistan initially. Maybe later on, but not initially. However, for that, concrete measures will have to be taken to increase the confidence of the foreign investor. Because if a foreign investor wants to purchase property in Pakistan to develop or to construct something, he has to go to underpayment. Because that at this point of time, the rates of the properties are not commensurating with the actual market price. So a lot needs to be done for foreign investors to come in.
Zishan, one is foreign investor, one is Pakistani expatriate investor. And you talk about investing in property developing. Yet, in spite of that problem you mentioned, do you know how ridiculously expensive land is in Pakistan?
Yes, I am privy to that, but the challenge is that it is all the black economy that is being forced into the property sector as of now, because it is all the untaxed money. For instance, if I purchase a piece of land, the government rates are 100,000 and the actual prices are 10 million rupees or 1 million rupees. So there is a very disproportionate valuation as far as their official values are concerned. So perhaps we need to look into that, so that everyone who pays that price officially and the provincial government have the data, they can sync it with the federal government, and then perhaps a lot of people will come into the tax net and we'll have a broader tax base. You need to put in serious measures in that. Further, you need to tax your retailers and your wholesalers at a proper rate, because they are not contributing anything to your tax collection.
So, please, you're closing on
Going back to what Zishan said, I think it's common sense. It doesn't require rocket science for you to start collecting revenue. When you know the land prices are what the real land prices are, nobody's touching them from the governmental side. You know, it's like don't rock the boat. The boat is not being rocked because there's so much vested interest.
But guess who's the boat?
Who's the boat?
It's you and me.
Of course it's the boat. But the head,
That's what I started with the first thing. You have given access of bank account to the tax officer. If you manage that, and if you could manage that, and you want to manage that, everything will be done. The question is, there will be no angels coming on earth that Zishan saying that the tax officer has to be corrected, doesn't ever be correct. It's not happening. No, it is not required even. The question is there has to be a system from where you can get information other than the tax what he files. That's what he files. I will only file what I want to file. There should be information available in the system that Faisal has got this land and Faisal got this property account in the system.
And what is the market value?
And that system access should be with the tax officer.
And the tax officer.
That's what I'm saying. This law, if I am saying very, very big if, I'm saying it's a very, very big if, access to bank account by the tax officer is a very big if.
It is a huge if.
Constitutional if, practical if, lobbies if, political if. But if that, I would say as a tax advisor, as a common man who's paying taxes, it's the only way to do it. Because
I can see why you like it, because
no, I don't know. That's
you bought it when you were saving?
No. The question is that whosoever buys money, and Ishan will agree, he doesn't bring money in bag. He keeps in bank. There are two checks are made. One is a check on the official account. One is a check, not cash. Pay orders are made and not. So that pay order is also made from a bank. So the question is, if the bank account access is given and is actually related, then it's a big way to do it. But the question is, again I am saying, whether we have a real will to do it, this is the time to do it.
Now, first of all, we all are sitting over there. I would like to take a bet. I'm sorry, Ishan, quickly. I would like to take a bet. From August onward, we will see the pouring in of the mini budgets.
Like the bank access.
Ishan, is it a wrong step? My question, Ishan, to you is a wrong step?
No, it's not a wrong step. I don't think so, but it has to be utilized.
Let us first admit the step is right. Now we should all advise to manage it rather than dispelling it.
So how do we get the sense from the top to verify the account?
I'd like to answer that very, very quickly. In my opinion, I'm not a genius, I'm not an expert, I'm not an economist. I'm just an average Jack and Jill and Joe. Zishan's words were, unless we change the will of those collecting taxes. Unfortunately, he didn't say, unless we also change the will of those who are supposed to pay taxes. It's very easy to keep blaming the system, the government, the tax collector. Let's blame myself. The tax collector can take money from me only if I have a reason to give the person. If I don't have reason to give money, he cannot take money from me. If my books are right. One. Then he said taxpayers feel dejected whenever there's an amnesty. I'd like to add to that. If you pay taxes for the pleasure of governments or your neighbors, yes, you should feel dejected. If you pay taxes because you think that's what you owe and you have faith in God, I think you shouldn't be dejected. Lastly, the whole world understands one thing, and I've never seen a budget or a policy in this part of the world which talks about it. That's public spending. Hallmark exists for public spending. Mother's Day, Valentine's Day exists for public spending. Festivals, holidays exist for public spending. We clamp on any event, kill it, beat it, wherever there's a possibility of someone buying chocolates or flowers or gifts, anything which pumps money back into our economy. We need to learn to spend money locally. We are now having our weddings in Bangkok. We've been investing and sinking money in Dubai. We have board meetings all over the world. Learn to spend money in your own country. Even God has told you, jitna kharach karoge, uska dugna de. Spend one, I'll give you two. If you spend it in Bangkok, if you spend it in France or Italy or wherever, you ain't going to get diddly do that. What you need to do is spend in your own economy. Doesn't matter where you got the dollars. Spend them here. Learn to spend money, share your money, and we will prosper. That's my very, very layman opinion. Thank you very much.